Good morning, Suzuki community. It's Myron at Zuk's Off-Road. It's beautiful here in the Verde Valley. Snow in all the mountains around us. I'm hoping to go skiing, snowboarding, trying to do snowboard this week. Anyways, this week's video is sponsored by KickFix, and it's all about the Sidekick TBI, and we're going to deal specifically with the 91 to 95. But before we get there, I sure would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel, share the channel. Appreciate everything that the community is doing for me by sharing the channel. And so let's go ahead and get into this. This is a 1992 to 1995, actually 1991 to 1995. This one's a 92, which a lot of us have. And we're going to be talking about something I've seen a lot on Facebook lately with some bad information, so I'd like to kind of clear that up if you don't mind. Not that I haven't said before I don't like Facebook. It's just that there's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, and they send people down the wrong paths. And so today we're going to be talking about the high idle, the low idle. We're going to be talking about the injector spray. We're going to be talking about the wax pellet adjustment, because there really is no wax pellet in here. But some of the people know about this. They're just not explaining it correctly. So let's start with the high idle. When you have a high idle, it's because it's designed to do that. There's a plunger right here on the back of the TBI, so to give you a reference, this is the front of the engine, this is the firewall, and so you kind of get an idea. The valve cover's right here. This is the intake manifold. You know that already. But this plunger, what it's going to do is it's going to, when the temperature gets to the right temperature, it's going to open up a vacuum valve, and as you can see here, it is going to move out of the way, and it's going to allow it to go to the low idle. The reason why they do this is so that you can start the car and drive away. This is the best thing about fuel injection. And so once you shut the engine off, you can see the plunger comes back, and that is your high idle. Now, to adjust that, you need to have a special Torx. This is a Torx 25, but it's different than a normal Torx in that it has a hole in it, because this is a security screw. And it's very simple. If you want to drop the idle, you put the tool in there, and then of course you would turn it counterclockwise to lower the idle, and clockwise. Now what happens clockwise to bring it up? So for instance, if you start your car and it's only at 1,000, this is not functioning, you need to adjust the screw. The number you're looking for is 1800 RPM. That would be the perfect RPM for starting your car, driving away, and as soon as it warms up, it's going to drop down to your normal. Whether you have a manual or an auto, it's a little bit different. But you never are supposed to touch the idle screw. If you're having a problem with your idle, I want you to go to the company that sponsored this video. It's going to be in the description for fixkick.com. It's a website that explains the Suzuki fuel injection, the Geo Tracker, some of the Vitaras. It's a really good website. I like to call it the Bible of EFI, because if you have an EFI system, you're not going to take this to the corner mechanic and ask him to fix it, because this is a system. You have to know every component, you have to know the voltages, you have to understand it. And unfortunately, if you have this, you're going to pay too much money at a lot of shops for them to horse around with it, because there's no way they can plug a computer into it to tell them what's going on with everything. And there's basically common problems with this fuel injection system and the computer. As normal, Suzuki went for the lower bid, and so you have some Mitsubishi parts, you have some Hitachi parts, you have some who knows parts. But anyways, that's how you adjust the high idle. Now this comes off of one of the vacuum valves in the front, so you would take the hose, and the first thing you want to do is suck on the hose with the vacuum, or you could suck on it like this. You want to make sure your plunger's working, because if it's not going to pull back. It's not going to pull back when it warms up. And so this vacuum switch up front here, it simply just opens it up. It's called the high idle vacuum it's like a VSS, like a vehicle speed sensor. It's a vacuum switch is what it is. Okay, so that's 1800 is what we want. A lot of people on Facebook now going, oh, my car is high idle when I start it up, and when I get a couple blocks away, it goes back to normal. That's normal. That's the way it's designed, people. Okay, don't have to sit there and wait for it to warm up. You can go. Okay. Well, let's flip her around and let's talk about the wax pellet adjustment, because there is no wax pellet in here. and people are giving wrong information. So what I want you to do is follow the TPS cable. It's always going to be behind this wire loom clip here. And so we want to get the cable out of the way. Then we want to take out the 3 Phillips screws, which I've already done this. And I want you to be super careful because this gasket, to get this gasket here, is $50. It's only going to come in the kit. There's your little gasket. I did break the edge of that, but it'll still work. So when you take your plate off for the first time, you have to be very careful to get that gasket off. Now, I think we're going to show you, I will show you a still picture of what's in here, but basically this is your idle air controller, and it's a plunger on a spring. If you can see this here, I'm pushing that in, and what happens over the years is that that spring loses its tension. And so what we want to do is we want to tighten that. Now, why am I adjusting this? It's really simple. At idle, when I'm either at 1800 high idle or I'm at low idle, if I go up 200 or 300, that is the wax pellet adjustment because it's the idle air controller. And so how we do that, and again I'll show you a still picture, it really requires a special tool, but you can take 2 picks and you can rotate it clockwise. Now I have found that rotating it 1 turn is going to change the idle enough for me to look at it. And so for instance, let's say I was 400 RPM and I went too high, 400 RPM too high, and I went 1 full turn, and now I was only wandering from 18 to 19, to 18 to 1900, 18 to 1900. Then I would know, wait a second, I did 75% in 1, so I'm going to go another quarter or maybe a third, and I'm going to get it where it doesn't wander. And that's what I'm looking for. I just don't want you to go in there and jam that all the way in. Now it's threaded, you can't see the threads usually, but basically what it is a disc with 2 holes, and then of course you put the tool in. It's called the sprite tool, and then you turn it 1 turn, that's it. Now you have to put it all back together, which I'm not going to do right now, but you have to put it all back together to see what the RPM is. Do not attempt to run the engine with this cover off, please. It would be bad for the engine. It won't function properly. Let's leave it at just that. Let me put these parts over here. Now, I've already removed the pressure regulator because we're not talking about pressure regulators today, but the pressure regulator's right here, and here you see your little vacuum line. I want to stress again that this system can be an engine killer. I removed so that you could see the high idle, the fuel line coming in, which is a metal line, but here you have a little drum. And this drum is the pressure regulator. It's activated by a vacuum hose you can see right here. That's why I left this hose on. So you want to pull this hose off. It's going to be tough the first time. If fuel is squirting out of here, it's being sucked right into the TBI, the throttle body. And this is going to cause you quite a lot of issues because the fuel is going to tell the extra fuel is going to tell the O2 sensor that you're getting too much fuel, and it's going to tell the computer to lean it out, and you're going to be fighting it. It's going to be, again, surging. So, or too high of an RPM because of too much fuel, or too low of an RPM because of too much fuel. So if your car's not behaving correctly, and actually it's not even that, you should be checking this, I would say at least once a week, because fuel going in here gets so much fuel that you can wash out the cylinder. We have to rebuild a lot of 1.6s, and this is the same thing on the 16 valve, but today we're just dealing with the 8 valve TBI. Okay, so that's enough on the pressure regulator. Let's talk about the TPS. The TPS is not something that you adjust to make the engine run better. The TPS is like a dimmer switch. In different positions of the butterfly, this will change the resistance in the throttle positioning sensor, and it will tell the computer, am I going really fast? Am I going really slow? Am I idling? So the computer loads the injector correctly. So don't adjust the TPS, okay? Now, when would you have to replace the TPS? So I'm driving down the street, 25 miles an hour, but my car's going 28, 25, 28, 25. We're not dealing with an idle issue over here. We're dealing with a surging issue. Why is it surging? Like a dimmer switch on a wall, there is a long copper wire and there's a wand on it. And so when you're driving at this certain range for, let's say, 20 years, you're driving 25 miles an hour, it wears through the wand, it loses contact. So what does the computer do? I can't see the signal, boys. Send more fuel. So it goes up, and then it goes, whoa, too much fuel. And then it goes down. And then it can't find the signal, so it sends fuel. It's looking for a signal. That's your indication that you need to replace the throttle positioning sensor when you're driving and you cannot maintain a certain speed. And it tends to be within 20 to 35 miles per hour where it's most obvious, because that's where we tend to wheel a lot. Okay, next thing and last thing I want to talk to you about is, what does a good injector look like? Well, we're not going to take it apart and show you. Take a timing light, idle your engine, remove the air horn, shine the timing light down there. You should not see any spray, dribbles, spitting, nothing. You shouldn't even see the fuel. What you should see at the back of the butterfly when it's idling is all you should see is little raindrops. If you see a slick street full of rain and it rains and you see those little bumps come up, and because a raindrop hits it, oh man, I just had a thought about a really good book, Phase 4 of Water. You got to check it out. It's how come clouds that weigh 100 elephants float in the air. Really good book, The Fourth Phase of Water. Check it out. So anyways, it's just like raindrops on the back of the butterfly. And so that's how you know. Okay, it sprays, it dribbles. What do? You remove the 2 screws here, you pull the injector out, you replace the O-rings that are on the injector. There's 2 of them, because this is the high pressure chamber right below here, and this little piece of plastic is holding all that together. So if it's spraying nicely, you should not see any drops, sprays, dribbles, nothing like that. And so that's how you check and see if you have a good injector. Now this one here, I really, today Matt's been here for years, and Matt knows a lot about Suzukis, and Matt said that I should tell you guys about this trick to get home. So I am going to tell you about it, but I'm going to warn you, this is not to drive for a long time. These computers have a tendency to fail to drive the injector. So I'm going to show you right here, all the injectors have 2 color wires. This goes across the board here, and this is the same for fuel-injected Samurais, fuel-injected Sidekicks, Geo Trackers. If you cut the red wire and you take 12 volts off of the alternator black with the white striped wire, and you connect the black and white to the red wire here, that will power the injector full go, like you're going like down the highway. It's going to just spray all of its, all the fuel that it can, and that's going to get you home. Don't leave it like that. Now, this is the warning that I'm giving you. This connector goes to the ECU. When you cut the red wire, and this cable goes all the way over here, so you have lots of wire that you can get into. When you cut the red wire, do not energize it back to the ECU. You'll smoke the ECU. You don't put 12 volts backwards through the system. And so it's the red wire, red and yellow. Yellow is the pulse going back to the computer. So if you need to get home, your injector's not spraying, but you have a spark, more than likely what's happened is the computer's failed, not the injector. But you can put 12 volts on the red wire, get it from the black and white, so when you turn the key on, that's when your 12 volts are there, and that should spray the injector for you to get you home. So with all that being said, I want to say really thank you to the FixKick people. They copied a website that was out before, and that website wasn't maintained. FixKick copied all that and redid all of it so it doesn't look like a kid with crayons did the website. So now it's really professional. It's there for you, the Suzuki community, to learn about your old EFI system. So I have no dog in that race, horse in that race, whatever they call that, dog in a fight, horse in a race, whatever. I don't have any connection to FixKick. I refer a lot of people to them, and I'm referring you to them so that you learn your system. That way you can save a lot of money from a mechanic that doesn't know what he's doing, that went to school to learn to plug something in and look at a screen and, okay, that I can fix that. This system doesn't do that. There's a lot of things that this system doesn't do. Let's talk about codes real quick. The coolest thing about these systems from Suzuki is that they can flash codes. Now this is the system here where you would join your DTC, which I'm not going to show you right now, but basically it's on the website I told you about, Fixkick. You would do a little jumper and it would flash the engine light. So when you do that, for instance, you could have an issue with your engine. You might get a flash that is a long flash and then 2 short flashes. Well, that's a 12. 12 is normal. That's what you want to see. But if your car's not running right, for instance, there's no code for a bad injector. There's no code for a leaky pressure regulator. There's no code for a bad TBS. Sometimes there is. There is a TBS code, but it doesn't catch it all the time. So here you are, it looks like you got a 12, but your engine's not running right. And that's why you need people like me and companies like Fixkick. So thank you very much for watching our videos. Again, you see the subscribe button right here, I think. But anyways, thanks for watching the videos. Please subscribe if you haven't. We have a lot more content, and we're coming up with some really cool projects. We have a really good company that we've done business with for a very long time. Rollers Gear has agreed to sponsor a lot of our videos for the truck build. So we're going to have a short out real soon about, well, I call it the only truck in the world like this. It's the Suzuki Samurai Extended Cab, and it's a dump truck. So it's the Hills project. We haven't been able to work on it for a long time, but it's time that we do. We have a couple of old jobs that we need to get back to as we are catching up on our orders. So thank you so much for watching. Be safe, go wheeling, have fun, and remember, get the kids involved, because it's really the future of the whole business, the whole industry. And remember to support all of the Suzuki community, sponsors, vendors, the people that are putting their effort, their money, their lives. 20 years I put my life into this, and I appreciate my customers more than any other company, because you're taking care of a number of families here. So we really appreciate you folks. Goodbye.